Own your next move. Bold moves in business and life. Every successful story begins with a bold decision. Join me, Jennifer McPherson, as I uncover conversations with entrepreneurs, leaders, and innovators about pivotal moments that shape their journey. Authentic insights, inspiring lessons, and practical wisdom to help you own your own next. Welcome to Own Your Next. I'm Jennifer McPherson. I didn't start my first business until I was 48. I spent decades behind the scenes and decided to give it a go at owning my own next move. Since then, I've built companies, navigated real setbacks, and learned firsthand that success is far more about mindset rather than timing, talent, or even luck. Today's guest, Alison, is a director of inclusive business partnerships for the Pacific Mountain West region at WSP, where she focuses on strategic partnership development and community-centric collaboration. She has navigated meaningful career transitions that led her roles grounded in both business leadership and purpose-driven impact. Alison brings thoughtful insight into inclusive engagement, relationship building, and how intentional fuels business success and community growth. Welcome to the podcast, Alison.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you here.
Yeah.
So before we get started, I want to see if you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, in Portland, actually, so that's where I live with my family. I always start talking about my husband and my two kids. I've got two boys that are 5 and 8. And so I think that really sets the tone for a lot of who I am as a person today. Yeah. It's they keep me busy. But yeah, I started my career here in Portland at a small engineering company, and started doing marketing and business development work for them back in the day. Now more than 20 years ago. And it was so interesting when I started there, because it opened up my eyes to this whole realm of the professional services space. And so when I was getting my business degree at college, and I was in marketing, it focused so much on product and how to sell a thing to consumers. And it really avoided this whole conversation around professional services. And so coming to the engineering side of things, I was like, oh, this is about people, about providing a really good service, quality work. And that really resonated with me. And so that's really where my career has centered on since. So from that engineering place, I moved to a small business consultancy where I spent the bulk of my career. And I got to work one-on-one with business owners of small business, all in that professional services space. So yes, engineers, but also architects or financial services, manufacturing, really a huge gamut of different types of businesses and then types of business owners, right? So I call that my small business boot camp era, where I got to really dig in with business owners on everything from employee engagement to operations to business development strategies and everything in between. So that was an incredible experience. And then from there, I did a bit of a pivot. And this is, I think, kind of alluded to in my bio there, was joined a leadership team at a large digital marketing agency that worked for the Nikes of the world. So I kind of did a 180 and I went and tried that, how do you, I still had that professional services because it was a digital marketing agency, but it was very much centered at pushing products on people and digital marketing strategies. However, I got to join the leadership team there and kind of take the methodology I had built and bring it to a larger organization. So it was a great learning experience and also caused for me that aha moment of, you know what, I want to get back to my roots and get back to the engineering space. And that's where I am today. So I'm at WSP in this role where I get to be part of something really big, working on really big, exciting projects, but also get to be connected to the small business partners that we work with to make that work happen.
Wow, that's impressive. It's cool because I find a lot of times that, a lot of people go down one career path and just stay in that one lane. But sometimes if you alter and you go over here and you do learn a lot more that you can take back to the original career path that you were on. So that's really interesting and cool. So I have a question, and that is from the perspective, of course, us being a small business, Chicken and Go, and we have worked with WSP exclusively in a mentor protege program, which was just so fabulous for us. And from the perspective, your perspective, what is the biggest barrier that keeps capable small firms from breaking through and winning work with large organizations?
That's the biggest barrier for small firms to be able to work with a
Yeah,
large
like
organization.
larger firms. Like, what do you see as like where they might be missing the mark? Or, being a small company, it's hard to understand how big companies operate and how big companies think. And, how do you get in with a big company, or, just navigating that whole big to small
Well, that was,
component.
I mean, to be honest, that was a big aha moment for me coming to WSP, right? Being such a
Mm,
large organization was learning how to navigate that. I
mm,
come from small business as well. And so having that perspective and then coming to a large company, I was able to, think about how do small businesses get to work with our company in a better and easier way, right? And
mm,
navigate this big system. And so I think that that's been a great bridge that I've been able to, a gap that I was able to bridge for small business owners and be that point of contact for people to understand how to navigate that. I think my biggest takeaway that I've learned, we're small, we can be nimble, we can be quick, we can make quick decisions. What I've learned with larger organizations and larger public agency partners and larger programs, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And that's something that's been really, like, I'm not a patient person. I like quick action and I like to move fast. And what I encourage with business owners of small businesses is saying, listen, it's not just a one conversation and then you're in the door and we're going to put you on our next project, right?
mhm.
It is cultivating those relationships over a long period of time. It is thinking from a 3-year time frame rather than a 3-month time frame.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And I empathize with small business owners in the space who need to book that next piece of business 3 months from now. But I guarantee you that the work that you start doing today will pay off 3 months from now. It's not going to be a skyrocket trajectory here. It's going to be, more of a linear growth trajectory and with lots of ups and downs along the way. So I encourage patience, and I encourage you to find somebody in that organization that you do really connect with, who can be an advocate for you, who can
Mhm.
have a voice at that table, who can say, you know what, have we thought about bringing the small business in the door, and here's an opportunity to be able to work with them. I think relationship building is key, in this industry, and I know that can be there's so much out there right now that
Yeah.
tells you that, let's just find efficiencies and let's, use AI to build the relationship and but I still feel like it is about that connection and who you can connect with within an organization.
Yeah, I think that's spot on for this industry in general. This industry is all about the people. And so we're always selling people, not necessarily always the firms. It's people within the firms that tie to those relationships that relate back to the client. I think the you're spot on in patience. It is hard for small businesses to be patient because we're always trying to build and grow, and it's really difficult when it's little project by little project, and then over time you get larger projects and bigger relationships. But it does take a lot of time and a lot of patience, a lot of relationship building, and a lot of proof in the projects that you're working on. You prove that you know what you're doing, even though you are smaller. A lot of times people might think smaller might be less than, but I like that you mentioned being able to be nimble, because when you are small, you can be nimble and you can go quick. You can make decisions a lot. The decision makers aren't up, 5 levels up. They're right here. You're talking to the decision maker. You're able to make a decision and move on to the next thing. But
And
yeah,
I think
I
that point too,
appreciate
it's
that.
hugely beneficial for a large company to have those small partners, because you are able to be so much more nimble and reactive. If hey, our client needs X, Y, and Z, like, let's go.
Yeah,
You're able to jump on that. And I think that's such a benefit. And I
yeah,
think a great reason why we should have more diverse project teams and be able to bring in some of those smaller companies.
yeah. I agree. I
Mhm.
agree. That's great. So you mentioned AI.
Yeah.
AI is, of course, always a big topic of the day. What is your take on AI in general and using it in the day-to-day operations of maybe what you're doing every day? How do you use it and what do you think about it?
Yeah. Well, I'll preface this with I'm a pretty technologically deficient person. Meaning people are always like, well, aren't you a millennial and you should know how to do all these things? I'm like, listen, I didn't even have internet in my house until like 10 years ago. I was just like, I don't want it. I don't, let's stay away as far as possible. And I think when AI started, becoming part of our nomenclature, I still was a little bit like hands off. It's like, I just, I like people. I like building relationships. That's not going to replace that. What I have found though is as I am leaning in, I am embracing it, and I'm looking at it from a more efficiency standpoint and how to move through things that honestly don't bring me as much joy that I could do
Yeah.
faster with AI. I mean, case in point, this morning I had to draft up a letter for a compliance related issue, and I took a brain dump email that somebody has sent to me and put it into AI and said, can you clean this up so that I can send this to XYZ client? And it did it. It took me 15 minutes rather than probably an hour, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the way that I'm leveraging it is finding ways to be more efficient with those tasks that before would require a lot more heads down time. Now it can be done in a simplified fashion. I also find it really helpful for research. So somebody could be spouting off something about a new policy that's coming out and is maybe on the ballot or something is happening in that area. I put that into AI and say, tell me more about this. And sure, that's kind of like a Google search, except that with a Google search, you'd still have to dig into every article and every piece and put together your own kind of synopsis. But this was able to kind of educate me really quickly, get me up to speed on a topic that I wasn't familiar with and made me feel informed so that I could walk into the room and feel like I was confident in what I was saying. So in that sense, just me personally, I mean, that's kind of the way that I use it and has been helpful tool so that I can focus on more of the things that do bring me joy, which is connecting with people and building those kind of relationships and
Yeah.
allowing space for that.
No, that's great. I agree. It does make some of the more tedious tasks super quick. And not just that, but like what you said on the research side of things, sometimes when you're researching things, especially very technical, it's very difficult unless you live in that technical world constantly to understand, even comprehend some of what you're reading. And so to use AI and take a very technical document and break it down into something that is quick to understand and easy to understand, I think has been incredibly useful, especially in the engineering world.
Well, that's what I was
for
going to say
us.
is I'm not an engineer.
I'm
And so
not
there's
you.
often times when it's just like, okay, what are we trying to do? What is this project? How do I kind of get myself up to speed so that I understand the conversations that are happening around me? And
Yeah.
that's been hugely valuable. And we could talk all day about how AI is going to transform this industry, right? And I know we have brilliant minds here at WSP who are tackling those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really an exciting time. But I also think small business owners, I mean, case in point, the work that you're doing, Jennifer, building tools. Again, small business owners have so many hats that they have to wear.
Mm-hmm.
And some are more enjoyable than others. And what if you made an AI tool that helped them truncate, be more efficient with the things that take up some of their time, like responding to proposals, right? So
Yes.
I think it's really, I mean, kudos to you for seizing this opportunity to say, how can I build something not only is going to make my life easier for me, but it's going to also be a potential diversification of my business to say, hey, we're going to build this up here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that, whenever there's something new, there's always opportunity. And
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how excited I am because I spent, prior to creating Chickenango, that was 8 years ago, I worked for 26 years for engineering companies and I put together proposals for engineering companies. So I was deep in the weeds of creating proposals week after week after week after week for 26 years. And I think I worked at 5 total companies, and every company was the same. Some of them were a little bit more organized and some not so much, but the process was the same, and it was always grueling. It was always painful. And if you can eliminate that first, 30 hours of work and bring that down more to like 4 or 5, that opens up the playing field for you to really dive into the strategy of the proposal and,
Exactly.
all of those things that are absolutely the most important part, but often, because the world is a billable world in the industry that we live in, you've got your project work that is just, always the priority. And so you need answers from engineers and you need answers from project teams, and they're always very busy with billable work. So
Right.
I'm
And
excited about that.
and that's one thing too, is I think about our marketing proposal development team here at WSP. Honestly, some of the brightest minds that I've met in this industry, and they're not the group that's just sitting down, heads down, churning out content, but they're the ones asking the strategic questions. And I've been so
Yes.
impressed. And so imagine a world where that heads down time can be replaced and they can
Yes.
only focus on their top value, which is their strategy that they bring to the
Yes.
table. And that's where I see, again, like the beauty of AI is allowing us to do the things that we're best at, that we add the most value to, and spend
Yeah.
more of our time in that space and then simplify the other elements of your job.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Let's see. How would you personally measure success in your role when it comes to supporting small and diverse businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I would say it's something my boss asks too, right? It's like, how do we measure this thing, right? And it is, just like a company, having brand equity, right? When you build brand equity, it's really hard to measure. You can add up how many likes you get on a certain post or how many
Mm-hmm.
website visits you get, but really brand is about how you make somebody feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
when they think of your company, how does that make them feel? And that's really hard to quantify, but it sure can be, a lot of qualities can go with that, and a lot of testimonies and feedback can go with that. So I think about that in the hat that I wear in businesses is, how do I show up for people, and how do I make people feel, and how can I be an advocate for our small business community? And the ways that I can track or measure that internally is thinking about, how many new businesses are we bringing to the table on a project, right? How many new companies that we haven't worked with before are we giving an opportunity to work on this? How many proposals have we won or scored well on in our small business strategy, because we're bringing something new to the table and we're bringing fresh ideas and we're showing success stories of how we have worked hand in hand as a partnership with small businesses. I think about even USP, how have we improved as a partner, right? Because by no means are we perfect. And where are there areas that we can improve on improving how fast we pay our sub-consultants, or updating the small business compliance system with accurate data so that our clients aren't reaching out to us all the time and be like, why isn't this, monthly invoice entered in? And so I'm looking at how to implement processes at WSP so that we're a better partner to both the small businesses and to our clients. And so, yeah, you can, I can bullet all those things out, and, I don't know, sometimes, again, this is the small business part of me versus working in a large company. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to play the game of like inflating, oh, I won this $50 million project because of my strategy. And it's like, no, it's a team, right? And
Yeah.
it's a small piece of this that we're putting together. And I just hope that, people see and acknowledge that, of the work that I'm doing, and that I, like a brand, is just how memorable are you, and what kind of positive impact can you make?
Yeah. I love that. I love it. Because of course, because we were in the mentor protege program, it was really great when you came in and just really would reach out and ask, what do we need? What do we need? And just making us feel like we weren't just a checkbox, and that you really did care about us as a small business and us as a partner. We are continuing to work with WSP on projects now, and we have a real seat at the table, and that feels really, really good as a small business. So, I think you are doing a fabulous job at, making us feel included. And I think that's wonderful that WSP has somebody dedicated to that in the company, because WSP is very large. How many people do you have?
Oh gosh, globally, 80,000, I would
Oh,
say.
yeah.
I mean, it's mind blowing. I just, it's numbers and scales that I could never imagine. And I had really good feeling about WSP just from the fact that they had created this role, right? And I
Yeah.
remember seeing this role being advertised, like, that's what I'm like, whether it's at WSP or not, like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. Like, that sounds amazing. And so it's just really cool to see that kind of dedication or level of importance that, and also the acknowledgement that there's so much more work that we can do to be a better partner. And we know that. And
Yeah.
there's some things too, and as I've learned, there's some things that are within my control and some things that aren't.
Right.
And I have to just be able to handle the things that are within my control and make a difference there and advocate as best as I can to continue to make changes where possible.
Yeah.
I guess that's a life lesson, right?
It is, in general.
life.
Let go of the things that you don't have control over.
Yeah.
That's not always easy, but
No.
necessary, makes your life much better.
Yes, true.
So I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
I am a huge supporter of the idea that mindset makes all the difference in the world. And my question is this: what mindset shift made the biggest difference in how you show up today in your life? And what old ways of thinking did you have to let go of in order to move forward?
It's a good question, because I feel like I'm always thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's one of the lessons learned too, I mean, we're all in evolution, right? We're all in different stages of life, and maybe what once served you really well doesn't serve you as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody goes through just new chapters, right? And you think about it as a business owner too, right? You have the startup stage, right? First couple of years of a business, and you're really learning and figuring it out, and then you evolve. Like, what got you there isn't going to get you to the next level. You're going to have to continue to change and evolve. And so I think the biggest thing for me is like, what lessons can I continue to take with me forward, and what things can I let go of, right? And that don't serve me anymore, that served me for a while, and then now it's time to move on. And I would say that maybe in the last 6 months, I've kind of gone through another one of those chapters where I think about, okay, in my personal life, my kids are both school age now, and we're entering into a different chapter. There's no, I can sleep through the night. I can, there's no diapers. There's no, we're just in a totally different realm of life, which opens up to new possibilities and thinking about what's important to me. And so, for me, that is building community in whatever way that I can, whether it's with my kids' school community or work community. That really, I have learned, fills my cup up. And so really trying to center things and priorities around those ideas of what do you value, and what do you want to do more of? Because I don't know. I mean, it's just, I've learned that you can't do it all.
No.
And or the quote that I like better that one of my colleagues shared is, you can have it all, just not all at the same time.
Yeah. That's good.
And so again, it's like thinking about your life in chapters. And right now it's like I might have to take my foot off one gas pedal and push it on, and accelerate in another area. But that doesn't have to be always. Like, I can kind of fluctuate and figure out what I want to be doing in this moment in time, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's great. Adaptability,
Yeah, don't get stuck in your ways. Yeah, don't get stuck in your ways. Evolve. We always it's okay to change. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to, have information come to you that causes you to pivot. And I hope that we all can be open to change and to admitting when we might have thought one way and maybe it's not the case and we can
Yeah.
change to a different way. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, totally agree. Totally agree. Well, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it. And where can people find you?
Yeah. I think the best way to connect is on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Alison Tierney. So you can find me there and we can connect. And I'm always happy to, again, I love expanding my community. I love connecting one-on-one, having conversations, and look forward to meeting more of your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you, Alison. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Own Your Next. Subscribe and share with friends. And remember, success isn't behind you. It's boldly owning your next move.